The next one up is by Bob Davidson, Workshops, Tips, Tricks, Tools, and Techniques. Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. So we're into this week's episode. Hope everybody can see that.
Yes, sir.
Great. Again, real quick, I'm just come from a theatrical and exhibit background. This week, I promise this will be the last kind of nerdy thing that I do, and then we'll get into some real tools and hands-on stuff. But I'm in the process of developing my new, layout. So I thought I would just real quickly go through some of the big picture items that I use to determine how I'm going to model and what I'm going to model. So, and it's subtitled French 101. The first thing I just want to talk about is mise en scène. Mise en scène, obviously a French term. It comes from the film and theater industries. And what it does is it asks you as a modeler to think about everything that's going to be in the viewer's picture. So it's not just the model, it's the surround, it's in terms of theater or film, it's the people, it's also the motion. Literally, it means placing on stage. But so when you are doing a layout, starting up as I am, one of the things I was thinking about was how am I going to, where is everything going to go? What are the relationships between the objects? How am I going to light them? How am I going to detail them, etc. So real quick, on the left in theater and film, we look at composition, visual composition. You'll have sets, props, actors, costumes, lighting, and motion. And what we do in the model making and model railroading is we're going to have a theme or a period or a feel. We're going to add in scenery, a scenic background to place our layout. We're going to have buildings, people and vehicles, miscellaneous details, lighting, and then motion, because all that's going to go together to create the visual picture composition of your layout. One of the things I think we always should be thinking about, and Phil's was such a great example of this, is what is the viewer going to experience? We want to think about that, even if it's ourselves as the viewer, not necessarily a guest, someone coming to see our layout. So something to just keep in mind is mise en scène. In a practical sense, here's the next French term, mise en place. I actually learned this from my son. My son is a chef, classically trained chef, and mise en place is a French term which is used by cooks and chefs, which really is just talking about doing your homework, having all your ingredients ready to go, having your work area prepared, mixing bowls, tools, equipment, etc. So again, making the comparison in the culinary world, you read the recipe, prepare the workspace, gather ingredients, etc. You can read that, portion everything. And the last one, clean as you go. In model making, you want to read and understand the instructions. I tend to take the instructions and take them away from my workspace. I'll go upstairs and I'll read them at the table or in a chair or something, just to go through and really have an understanding of what it is that I'm going to be building. In the case of something that I'm scratch building, I want to actually take some notes and write down how I want to proceed, how I perceive this as moving ahead. Preparing your workspace. This is the old thing about doing plumbing at home. How many times are you going to go to Home Depot? Well, if you prepare your workspace and gather all the materials and tools, you want to try to have everything in place before you start. And then preparing your materials, de-spruing stuff, texturing, pre-painting stuff, building in modules so that you think ahead as to how this is all going to go together. Follow the instructions. Most of the manufacturers we deal with, they know what they're talking about. So there's times when we're going to maybe do things in a little different order, but in general, we're going to follow the instructions. And again, we're going to clean as we go. One of the things I try to do, because we're all working typically on several things at once. So I try to compartmentalize every project into its own space and so that I'm not intermingling stuff and losing things. So, because it's a good way, having everything organized is a good way to prevent fits and starts in your model making. So that's kind of my kind of workshop. Not really. It's kind of a prep idea for tonight. The tool of the week is a drill guide. Real simple. I have what's called essential tremor. I shake. So drilling holes sometimes is a challenge. These little drill blocks are great for ensuring that you're drilling holes perpendicular to your work surface. What's cool on them also is you see the little grooves on the sides of the block down along here. These all line up with the centers of the holes. So you can actually use this if you set a center line through the holes and then line up. If you put hash marks down, you can then practically, line up where your holes are going to be drilled. This is the one I keep out in my main shop where I'm doing framing and stuff like that. They do make another one. This is Big Gators, which goes down to 3/64 in terms of drill size. So this is probably more useful for some of the stuff we're going to be doing. But again, it's a great way to make sure that the holes you're drilling are perpendicular square. So highly recommended. The back sides of both of those are notched out, so you can use them. You can clamp them to a tube and then use it to accurately locate a hole and drill through into a tube. So nice little tool. The little one is $8 on Amazon, and the big one is more expensive, but still a good investment, like I say, especially if you're like me and you shake a lot. So neat website this week, real quick, stumac.com. Stumac is a company that sells tools and equipment for luthiers, which are people who make guitars. I actually found this through a friend of mine. I'm building one of my grandsons a miniature guitar. But they have some really neat tools and stuff and some of their glues and tapes and things like that. They just have some neat stuff for some good ideas. If you're ever, this is something here, these drop fill toothpicks. I know we were talking before about using the old paint little micro brushes, but these are kind of cool. You see the ends here, and these are called drop fill. You see how they're notched, so they'll actually pick up glue, and you can I haven't bought these, but they're pretty cool. A lot of the stuff on this website, frankly, is pretty pricey, but it's a good resource to look for things and then see if you can find them cheaper somewhere else. Who's going to pay $18 for a roll of painter's tape? But so that's kind of what I have for the website this week. So next week, let me go back to this. I'm going to start introducing next week's show. So next week, we're going to look at work surface tips and tricks and using magnets to do layouts. So that's this week's show for me.
Well, Bob, I appreciate it so very much. You always have some great information and great tips and so forth. And it's enlightening to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.